Object-oriented programming and functional programming are programming paradigms. In simple terms, they define how you style and organize your code/logic. Many people still believe that object-oriented programming and functional programming are the only paradigms that exist, but in reality there are quite a few more. Some of the most popular ones include imperative programming, in which detailed instructions are given to the computer to perform a specific task in a very specific way. As you can see here, we don't have any functions or anything like that. It is just direct instructions given to the computer. Procedural programming. It is a derivation of imperative programming, with the difference that here the user is encouraged to subdivide program executions into functions. So as you can see, we have the same array result, but packed into a function, and we are requesting it in the other function that does the number check. So it is a little bit more convoluted, and it's not that recommended, since putting everything into a function makes it harder to share. So yeah, it could be useful at times. Functional programming, in which many people know, which takes the procedural approach further by treating functions as first-class citizens. This means that the functions can be assigned to variables, passed as arguments, and returned from other functions. Essentially, everything is done with functions, consolidating actions like a server action into just one function rather than having multiple functions doing small tasks, as seen in procedural programming. So yeah, this is the same example, but it's just much easier to the eye, and for people that have started with JavaScript and so on, know this type of programming very well. Then we have something else, which is declarative programming, which is all about hiding away complexity and bringing programming language closer to human language and thinking. It is the opposite of imperative programming, where humans give instructions to the machine. With declarative programming, tasks are executed based on the desired result. So as you can see here, something here specifically you may have seen in, for example, React onclicks and so on, that people like to do them inline, or as best said, in a declarative way. So yeah, this is another very popular paradigm. And last but not least, object-oriented programming. The core concept of object-oriented programming is to separate the code into entities coded as objects. Each entity groups a given set of information, properties and variables, and actions, which are methods or functions, that can be performed by the entity, as we can see here. Each paradigm consists of certain structures, features, and opinions about how common programming problems should be tackled. We'll focus on functional programming and object-oriented programming, since they are the most used and requested in jobs/projects. And well, something else is that the question of why there are many different programming paradigms is similar to why there are many programming languages. Certain paradigms are better suited for specific types of problems, so it makes sense to use different paradigms for different kinds of problems. Knowing the different approaches we can take when coding matters, because when entering a new project, job, programming language, or working with someone else, they may have a different coding style. Being familiar with different paradigms beforehand can help you get things running much faster than having to learn from scratch the paradigm used in the project. Additionally, understanding different programming paradigms opens your mind and encourages you to think outside the box and beyond the tools and mindset you already use or have. This allows you to become a better programmer overall, as you can solve problems in different ways, leading to more effective solutions. So now the key question: what's better, object-oriented programming or functional programming? For a quick answer, neither. Both object-oriented programming and functional programming are extremely effective depending on the occasion. For instance, I've implemented logic with functional programming quickly, and the same goes for object-oriented programming. However, for long-term and very complex apps, I have observed and experimented that with object-oriented programming, everything is much easier to maintain due to the necessary organization and inheritance brought by classes, as you can see here. With other paradigms, organization is left more to the developer. Therefore, for relatively small components or projects, using functional programming is acceptable. However, for larger and more complex projects or components, for long-term maintainability and readability, I will strongly consider using object-oriented programming. In reality, the best approach is often to implement both. Currently, I'm working on a big project with Vue.js, and I have noticed great maintainability by switching between object-oriented paradigm and functional programming paradigm, which, as you can see here, this is functional programming, which is based on functions, and I structure it the way I want. But this is with the object-oriented paradigm or concept that we learned. It is a bit easier to look since we have the method that returns the data, the method that we put everything when something is mounted to prevent server-side rendering issues, and the one for computed. This is something that is implemented further by Vue.js. So this type of object-oriented programming only works with the options API, but it has that concept of object-oriented programming at its core. And well, as you can see here, we have functional programming implemented into a different component, which I saw a little bit better since it was a smaller component that didn't require this sort of organization. So yeah, my take on this is to alternate between functional programming and object-oriented programming when possible or when allowed by a language. I know that many languages typically only use object-oriented programming, but in a programming language like JavaScript and so on, where both type of paradigms are allowed, I find it extremely useful to implement both.